Hey. How about now, students? Hopefully the connection is a lot better because my pine cone is working overtime. Alright, so before we cover this, shall we? What was I talking about before in the last live stream? I was talking about how in the last live stream that my intent with teaching and also doing my videos, like the style that I've been doing, is because I love telling stories. Like having a fluid story always come to you like as an image, and you can just say it out loud and bring out the emotion in it. Has always been something I really love doing. And like I always just really like stories in general because I grew up with a lot of stories. My dad experienced a lot of weird things, so yeah, he had a lot of stories to tell, and I always loved it. Paranormal and supernatural. It's cool, and not a lot of people understand what experiencing paranormal or supernatural things is like. So for some people, they have like they have a belief in like in a very specific way. So when you have questionable things like spaceships, shadow cats, thunderbirds, stuff like that happening in your life, and you want to share those stories, you don't always meet that with like the best kind of, you know, outcome when it comes to sharing your stories. So all my stories are just because I love telling them, and they're stories that come to me, and they're all great in their own way. They all have experience. They all have like a depth that I wouldn't really be able to make up on like make up such a weird term, but the ability to create something like that has to be genuine rather than something that you just force or claw together. So in doing so, and in actually putting myself in a place where I'm vulnerable, because every time I get in front of a camera, I'm vulnerable. Literally anytime I sit in front of the camera, super vulnerable, and that's all right. Like that's the kind of thing I want to teach. Go out there and show the world. Even doing these videos, because I know content on YouTube isn't usually like, well, or depending on what you're watching, like there's horror series, there's pretty much a little bit of everything on the platform, but sometimes genuine people don't always end up on the platform, and even if they are genuine people, they usually get stuck doing like very specific content. And for a while, I was doing very specific content. Like I shared video clips of glitches that I found in games where bodies would break dance across the floor in Assassin's Creed, or I would get the Orphan of Cause stuck in a wall in Bloodborne, or statues would change color in Bloodborne. Now that one was nice. The color grading, for whatever reason, when I was running past the statues, started changing the colors. Because even those, like even early on in those videos, it was like telling a story anyway. Because like the videos themselves, they're like bits and pieces of a story being told, and it just adds to like the flavor of a channel. There's always something that you're doing, and so it's like storytelling is one of them, and now it's going to be teaching. Though what's obvious to me about the teaching is that it's more about showing than telling, because like I have a notebook full of information, details, stuff like that. But none of it is as relevant unless I'm in a teaching capacity. And right now, as teacher, because I have to fill this space with being a teacher right now, and what I'm teaching is having to be transparent, having to tell the truth. because I know a lot of people came to this channel because they were following me when I was doing spirit related stuff, and spirit related stuff is like a big deal. Like, it can be a big deal. It's sort of like a small niche kind of thing, but it's still there. Like, there are people who wonder what happened to like Kelly, and like people who follow Ryan Cropper, and people who do these videos and actually sit down and talk. Because they're all teachers in their own right, and they all do things a specific way. So I'm much more interested in the recognition that we're all vulnerable. Like, we all have parts in our lives where we want to do better and live a better life. Like today and yesterday, I've had more of that where I understand how I'm making choices that aren't necessarily the best for me, and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life has been a 20 year thing, because it's easy to just get a job and no life it, but it's a bit more challenging when you really have to acknowledge that there's something that you want, and that through different experiences that I've had, I've got to learn what it was that I wanted to do. And a lot of people, I realize, live a life that is counteractive to what they want. There's a guy in Michigan, I recorded a video, it's still on there, that he wanted to finally retire, and what he did in his age, I think he was like in his 60s or something, he was carrying around heavy equipment up and down flights of stairs, and that's not going to prolong your life. that's a lot of work for somebody who may or may not be physically young to do that kind of stuff, where their body can be beaten on and then brought back to the brink of destruction. Like, so as a teacher in the space and on this day, there's always a large amount of shadow. Everybody casts one, and um, Plato's cave. I love saying I'm talking about Plato's cave. It is Plato's cave. It might be Socrates. I don't know. One of them. One of those guys. I think it's Plato. uh, we all live in a world where we're taught about the illusions of life, like what it's all supposed to mean, when it's literally the most mysterious thing that you can experience in life. When it comes to like experiences, like you can live in the U.S. and then travel to like Africa, and in a region that's like, I guess, more locked or less active when it comes to like new culture and stuff like that, and find voodoo shops, people who are willing to pay money to have people die, get buried alive, and it's a shallow grave for them to come back out, and then everybody ignores them because everybody thinks they're a zombie. Like, that's a cultural norm over there, but in the West, and then I really like posing the question of like, when holy people, when like church people, churchgoers, and all that, they talk about like hearing the voice of God and all this stuff, and angels talking to them. It's like, back then, and what the Bible would like, people to believe is that that's a norm, like that's a thing that's acceptable. But like, now, if people say that they hear voices, it's like, the person's crazy. Person's mad. They need to go into an insane asylum. But there's so much stuff. Like, to actually teach is more like a common ground, and everybody has a common ground already. Is that We play with shadows. We play with shadows all the time because, from our perspective, we are not the sun. We are something beneath the sun. We are just an ant on the face of the planet. And then ants are also ants to us in the grand scheme of things. However, if you always view yourself as just somebody who can work till you die or work till you can retire, by that time you have like no energy to really live your life, you've already created choices, a reality in which you're just that and nothing more. So like I can talk about spirits, I could talk about entities, I could talk about the voices that talk to me, I could talk about all the things that I've seen. But the most important thing when it comes to, I guess, the meta of reality is that you always have a choice. You can always build yourself up and actually live the life you choose, but it's going to be one that's going to conflict with your shadows, the ones that you're used to. And doing that is going to be challenging at first, but as long as you're open, so you always got to be open to it, you'll actually be able to learn a lot more. Because even in like really difficult situations, like being homeless, starving, um, anything else you can add to that list, there is always room for the unexpected because you have to act and do things that are different. It's like there's a difference between being homeless and being a beggar. Like, I chose to be homeless once, and I was no beggar. I didn't beg anybody for money. People gave me money, and I didn't ask. I talked to people, but I wasn't asking for food. People fed me. People took care of me, and it was in moments in which I wasn't even focused on that. I was focused on the best outcome, like always, no matter what it was. I always wanted things to be better. Like, if I'm going to talk to somebody, I want to have like a proper conversation and to exchange whatever there is to exchange between myself and that person. And it's such an interesting experience because when you put yourself at the real whims of like your shadows and stuff like that, and you realize that they can't hurt you, or you realize that all the shadows in your life are kind of just there to dance, just to kind of get you to back off. It's more of a respect that you can garner from it, because certain situations are always going to be really tough, and other situations you won't really see the bright side of until you've hit another new low. Like, if you want to type in a chat, you can. If you want to leave a like, you can also do that too. Um, but there's always this desire to do things, but not necessarily step out of a comfort zone or a way of being more than you believe you're capable of, which can be very challenging at times. But being there and knowing that you have the opportunity to be more, to do bigger things, is always there. The opportunity, the actual access to those kind of things is always all around you. Like when I do teaching, I'm more invested in trying to get it perfect and trying to get it all written down so that I can transform it into an actual practice for other people, which is meditation, imagining things, smelling things, hearing things, and going from there to re-engage something that everybody already has. Like the same thing with kingdoms. Um, there's the animal kingdom, but there's also the human kingdom as well, and humankind. So more of a catch up, at least for the first 50 minutes, catching up. Um, yeah, and my focus was going to be teaching. Like right now, sensation of a stabbing pain between my shoulder blades is there. And yeah, I guess I'll teach you about the concept of self-betrayal. Self-betrayal is interesting because doing things on a level that is both minute and also somewhat unknown to you. And I mentioned beliefs before in the whole catch-up, is that you unwittingly create a path until you make one for yourself, and you make one consciously. Some teachers, like William Wyckoff, would be super conscious. You have to be in a place where you're capable of making the decision completely of your volition. Everything, every sense that you could ever have, intuition, awareness of what options to take, like talking to a certain person or traveling to certain places at certain times. All those things factor into a decision to do more with yourself. And usually when you have an intuition, that's your better life being attached to a certain route that you can take. So in self-sabotage and self-betrayal, we usually have a decision to make. We either are willing to fight or we are willing to flee. And then there's the third option, which is usually being emotionally adjustable, where we usually aren't. A lot of the things that stop us from really living our lives is that, I really don't know if you can hear this, I can't tell what you guys can hear, but death is usually the biggest fear that we have in regards to certain things that we avoid. Like trusting people can get you killed and all this other stuff. And of course, it's all played with in fiction, TV, that kind of stuff. But these things are also true. All of them are almost ridiculously true. Like telling somebody that you can imagine everything you ever wanted, and as long as you're willing to feel it and try to believe that it's yours and that it's out there and that you can have it, and all you have to do is leave the door open to get it. I've heard it stated more than once is that it sounds so easy. Done. Then again, doing a lot of things sounds easy. I'm growing a beard. I'm maintaining one's hair. All of it sounds easy. Maintaining one's health, exercising daily, having a routine. It really comes down to discipline. Discipline less than the idea that you need to be completely rigid with what you do, but more of a structure. You gotta give yourself the ability to both be vulnerable and strong. Because we aim for a sense of durability, like hardening your heart when somebody breaks it, or becoming a better liar and cheater if somebody is able to catch your bluff. We can reinforce our bad habits as much as we can reinforce our good habits. And in all of this is more like an imparting of such. Because I can see an entire classroom before my eyes, and it really does change my perspective on teaching. Because when it comes to educational systems, it's a very hard and very fascinating way of teaching people. That's usually, what's considered important. Like, you have to learn math, you have to learn English, you have to learn how to write, you have to learn how to write your name, you have to learn how to do all these things. And it's great. Like, learning those things is great, but learning them as opposed to knowing that you exist in a counterintuitive manner, just as everybody else does, is much more important and much more vital than just picking up a pencil, picking up a pen. Like, self-observation, meditation, and actually taking care of yourself is something that tends to be educationally lacking, because those abilities are supposed to come out in you one way or another. I'll use Michigan for an example. I knew how to tie vines together to keep a tent from collapsing on itself. And I never really tie anything, not in my day, other than my shoes. I didn't need Boy Scout camp to teach me that. I didn't need anybody to teach me other than myself, other than to really recognize that, yeah, I planted the knife in my back, but I also recognized that there was never a knife to begin with. That I can be emotionally stunted, but at the same time be emotionally deep. Both things are true. They're like two sides of the same coin. I love that one because it's a very interesting dynamic. If you believe you're one side of the coin, you are still the coin. Two sides of the same coin. Both sides. And you always will be. Most people are. They just never really take that opportunity to recognize it. Because I'm entertained by snow falling and trees moving, and imagining what it'd be like if, like, the pain that I feel had voices, and they could just tell me instead of me just feeling sharp pain. It all works. It all depends on whether or not anybody talks about it, and whether I'm willing to sit here and go over this in a teaching capacity and take questions. I don't know who's watching. I honestly don't. But if they're watching, you find this helpful, you can leave a comment, like ask something, anything. Anybody who watches this afterwards, feel free to ask a question. Like, if it's spirit related, if it's personal life related, if it's like Marcus, why do you tell stories so good? You could literally ask anything, say anything, just entertain the notion that I'm entertaining the notion that there are 35 people, 36, 30 people. Oh, exact second number, but kind of some slack. There are 30 people who are subscribed to my channel. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. I don't even know 30 people in my life right now. 30 people. That's insane. That's crazy. It makes me happy that people did find my channel and came to it for one reason or another. And yeah, I did spiritual stuff. I even shaved my head, which again, my top grossing video. Most videos at 400. Internet's weird, man. You find some weird things on the internet and like them a lot for whatever reason. So, like right now, my knee, I'll use my left knee as an example. Why is it on me? I don't feel really protected rambling like I am on the camera and live for one individual. But it's more like I don't know who's watching me, and that goes back into like, am I doing it perfectly? Am I doing it good enough? Am I getting across clearly? Am I doing everything in my power to make it a great experience for you? You know, there's one single person that could be watching that hate my guts right now. It's alright. It's alright. I have to accept it. I have to accept it. Come to terms with that's a possibility. Because as long as you want to fight, it's the same thing as spirits. Like everything I talk about when it comes to like intent. Like you have to know what you're focusing on. If you're focusing on a long haul fight where you're like, guy, I have to wake up in the morning and like stupid early in the morning, and I have to go to work. I have to make money. I have to do this. I have to do that. That's what you're focused on. Honestly, what you're focused on. I've come up with like random, intuitive, like building blocks, or a lot of like really easy metaphors. Like you're a magnet. Like you're either positive to negative or negative to positive. You drawing in your experience. That's because you're going to make decisions either based on what you lack or what you want. And if your entire life is just doing one consecutive thing very well, or money or gain of some kind, then that's it. That's all you have to offer. But what I offer is to give. Because I've met quite a few people who can either share these uneasiness with the way life is and the way that they see life, and that not everybody agrees with the way things have turned out and continue to turn out, and it's more like an uncontrollable rock spinning through space rather than like an enjoyable rock spinning through space, because everything is everywhere. Everybody is doing what they want to do. So when it comes to this video, what I want to teach with it is that no matter what you're doing, even if the process of something that you love is something that you dislike, like me sitting in front of a camera and recording these videos, I'm usually worried that it's not going to turn out the way I want, or it's going to freeze or bug, which is the reason why I'm looking down at that angle. But it's alright. I have to accept that. I have to accept the fact that my internet can just go off at any point. But I also created a space very specifically around this magical blanket. I have magic pine cones. The magic pine cones keep the stability of the string going. I said it there actually in the last stream a minute ago, but now that I started this stream with the pine cone. What this stream is secretly about is I'm selling magical pine cones that will stabilize your internet no matter what. It's like pet rock. uh, yeah, like the process of what you love. Like getting your hands dirty if you like fixing vehicles, getting no vehicles inside and out. You might not like that, but you love the process of taking something apart in a vehicle and putting it back together again. One thing I really loved as a kid, to just be an example, is Legos, specifically Bionicles. They're great. I love playing with them. The only thing that was a drawback and I didn't like about them is that usually the versatility of the pieces, you needed more pieces to make something bigger or better. I really wish I recorded what mine looked like, but after collecting a lot of them through many different means, I ended up building my own like toy. And that's sort of what life is like. And actually, it's a lot of what life is like. You gotta continue to choose to invest in the things that are going to make your life better, and so that you can do the things that you want and make the things that you love making. And that's why I'm imparting out there to the thousands of people who will end up watching this one day. Might just be one for now, or two, or three, or four. But I can always be infinitely more. And that makes me really like the support of that is something that and that I'm just kind of turned off towards. Like, I love it. I love the idea of having these videos go out, people telling stories and enjoying themselves, because I love the fact that I just get stories that are not only like they have that pop, that zing, that emotional impact, but they also have the ability to affect other people. I don't know how my stories are going to affect anybody out there that watches them, but I mean, if they impact you, that's great. If they really speak to your heart, to your core, that's important, because the thing we love is usually a thing that we hide the most. Like, we do it as a hobby, never to take like main center stage. You'll love it, but it has to live within confines. Like right now, my storytelling could be on a whole nother level, and I put it in confines because I don't feel like I'm supported in my endeavors. I admit that. I acknowledge and accept that. It's the same thing with seeing thousands of people watch my videos. Like, I can imagine it. I can imagine me getting tons of people to watch my stuff. And at the same time, it's like, will I ever make anything that's like good enough or perfect? Like, to emotionally fulfill somebody else other than myself. Because it's a giving. Like the teaching right now. It's a give. Pass it on, share it. It's there to be given. And if you take it and are able to run with it and enjoy what it is that you are learning from the experience, then it can always grow and become more. Perhaps it'll give you the nudge that you need so that you can knock open the floodgates and really just make it a new land of prosperity. That's what I want. Is to just stop hiding, because there are no experts in the world. And so the people who are willing to try, fail, get up and succeed eventually, and still never back down from their main intended goal. There's just a difference between real success and like being successful and then living the dream and being successful. Like, because there's a big divide there. Because you can always downsize what you want, but you gotta upsell it. You see, if I see thousands, millions of people enjoying my videos, liking them, sharing them, and putting smiles on people's faces, I can give something to them. I can give them an experience that you can watch on Netflix. But I mean, like Netflix, I like telling stories rather than having stories told to me in poppy, fast-paced, blurry kind of way. The emotion and depth of a person cannot be sewn by a single shoelace. And there's a lot of depth and complexity. And as long as you love that thing, you can bring out the depth, and it's most complex part. Whenever you compete, so smash that like button for more of this kind of content. I came here and teach. All that other stuff will handle itself. Another beginner warm up to doing YouTube. Just focusing on the learning aspect. All really good. Being burdened with perfection and being able to move emotionally in this is very interesting. Because I choose to teach, and I choose to tell stories open. Because you can imagine a vast treasure hoard. And you can imagine what's in your chest. And that is why it's called the treasure chest. They could have called it anything else. They also called it booty. Called it booty. Yeah. Yar. Oh, good. It's really good. So let's go big. And then go bigger than that. I want to be bigger than T-Series. I want to tell stories and be bigger than T-Series. That's the goal. See, I just went bigger. There's like 1,000 people watching my videos. 2 billions of people watching. 7 billion people. Yeah. Even though I did teaching day, the biggest teacher that anybody has is already within them. I pause to consider the mind as an appropriate part to put in there, but imagination. If you really want an answer, just imagine one. You'll be surprised. I'm probably gonna end the stream right here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Do that whole bell ping thing, because otherwise you won't be notified. Or just, don't know, pop in every now and again, watch a video or two. I might go live every 2 days out of a week. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Yeah. Catch you later. Bye-bye.